Okay, so
Please mute yourself.
it's the 50th anniversary of the fire at the Poughkeepsie Bridge. And I'm just going to go over the history of the bridge. And we'll leave the fire for later. This is one of the first ideas, and you could see it was a through truss bridge with masonry culverts holding it up. And this was about 1870 or so. Go ahead. This is one pier in the middle, and all the designers basically came to the conclusion you needed at least 4 piers for the Hudson River at this point, which was about 6,900 feet. The suspension bridge that wasn't happening either. Go ahead. So they first started working in 1871. They got their charter, and first work was in 1873. And this was due to the diligence of Harvey Eastman, who ran a business school in town. And he was the best thing that ever happened to Poughkeepsie. As well as the bridge. And he worked on that night and day. He got a municipal sewer system in, which is, I'm sure people appreciate it many years later. Okay, so they started work in October 1873. At the end of the year, they had a financial panic. And the other thing that happened was Mr. Thompson, the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad, who was a big backer, died. And the Pennsylvania pulled out their money. So Harvey Eastman had to go around again and hustle money, which he did. And he worked again in 1776, 1778. At this time, Harvey died of pneumonia or tuberculosis, I forget. And also, the company building the bridge went out of business. So it ran dead for about 10 years. In 1876, they had new backers, and they started working like the Dickens, and they got it complete by December of 1888. Catskill Archive, and that's really good. The other person that was mentioned was Bill Sepe, and he comes in later in the story after the fire. And he's a regular guy from Poughkeepsie, and he put his heart and soul into getting the walkway going. And he took me out there in 2006, and there were holes all over the place. And It's pretty fun.
We will show a clip of the trip when they had a
At the end.
high rail on it, or hand car, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now these are the foundations. And in this area, you have various layers of muck. You have clay, you have mud, you have sand, and you have gravel. And you have to dig like a Dickens to get down to the clear gravel, which you can put your foundation on. Go ahead. These are in the 1870s, they built some cribs in the middle of the river. And what they did was they put cribs over them and filled them in. And that's where you come up with your present cribs here. Go ahead. On the ends, you can see it digs in. So they pound the cribs into the ground. Now the cribs are made out of southern yellow pine, and they're about 50 to 100 feet long, which is hard to believe. So different compartments for the clamshell door, and they scoop down and get the stuff out. Worked well. Go ahead. Okay. It's a cantilever bridge. And it's pretty hard to explain, but when you see these guys, okay, I get it. And they use it for the fourth in Scotland about a year later after the Poughkeepsie Bridge. And they had some unique advantages for construction. Go on. It was the first use of structural steel in the 1800s to build a bridge. It's much stronger than iron. You can rivet it, and see. The average pay rate during this time was $1 to $1.50 a day.
Wow.
Okay. Go ahead. Now they're starting, under the muck and building the that's a framework, and you can see the on top. That's the bridge. Okay, go ahead. And you can see the after after the framework is done, they can use a traveling and they have great overhang. That's a real cool thing. And they use those for coupling up the sections that are going to be cantilevered. And they attack it from both sides. Okay. And this is at work, basically at the end. And it'll overhang about 5 feet or so. It's held on rails. and it hangs about 4 feet out the side. It's just amazing. Go ahead. And there's another view. Okay. And that's a view from up in the air. You can see it's hanging out about 3 feet on the side, about that much on the front. And you can see in front where they have the work they're getting ready to put up, as well as stairs going up and down. You got a regular house there. Go ahead. That again is the foundation work on the bottom and the structure on top. That's on the east side. The west side, you can see the overhang on that construction platform. It's really cool. This is what the completed bridge looked like. And at first they had 2 columns holding up the bridge work. Later on, they put another girder in the middle column holding it all up. Okay. And this is with the 3 columns and the three beams. Well, Modulewski was hired by the New Haven Railroad to oversee the bridge. And he did a good job. He also designed the Mid-Hudson Bridge next door in the 1930s. And he lived to about 1940. Okay. My God. Okay. So okay, so they put the reinforcing beam in another column to hold it up. And on top, they went from having 2 lanes in opposite directions to having 1 lane where only one train could go at a time. And that centered the weight on the bridge, which made a big difference. Now, the problem was after World War One, the New Haven came out with engines weighing up to 600,000 pounds. The other ones, the 210-2s, and they were used out of MAYBROOK. These pictures are by Austin McEntee, who's like the dean of the Poughkeepsie rail fans. And he taught everybody. He taught Bernie, and he was well known and loved in the area. Go ahead. And one of his boys, Charlie Alsizer, has a whole bunch of these guardrails in his front yard. They're all pictures taken from the bridge. Guess that one isn't, but okay, these fellows were working on the bridge and somebody came by and took their picture from a caboose in 73. And you can see all the buckets, the 5-gallon pails with water in them. Okay.
Actually, there is a guy here. His head pops out. He's also
He's working underneath.
Working on the. They have a tool shed. They have more barrels here.
I guess they buttoned the hole. Okay. Okay, these guys I knew from the bus trips. And Bill was, I spoke to him 3-4 times about this. And he doesn't have anything bad to say about Penn Central Lake. He thought they were a good company to work for.
They work as signal maintainer.
Yes, they're both.
Yeah,
And Al was back with me yesterday.
right.
So
Actually, I'm on the call. That's me on the right.
Oh, thanks.
That was 51 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a Penn Central High Rail. We've been across that bridge 50 times. I have. Yep.
Thanks for the pictures, Al.
Glad to help.
Okay, next.
okay, some of the fan trips. And well, the RS3 when it's
Yeah,
happening.
the RS3.
Anyhow, go ahead. It was a popular destination. Everybody wanted to go to MAYBROOK. Okay, in 1964, a preliminary to what is going to come happened. And Al Alexander, who started the MAYBROOK Museum, was out on the bridge and they caught fire. So they put it out with buckets using the water from the 5-gallon pails. And they got reimbursed by the company from the salt. They got $75 a piece. It's a whole lot of money at that time. You could get shoes and everything else you wanted. And the fire that we know was just 10 years later from that. That's also. Okay. Now, Woody Cohen was in town and he took these pictures and he's pretty well known as a photographer in the Harlem Valley. And it's really sad. The buckets were taken out, 5-gallon pails. The water main was frozen. They let it freeze in the wintertime. They furloughed the maintenance staff in the fall. So they were basically running on empty then. And
This is the poem written by Bob McHugh to commemorate the bridge. Bob McHugh is one of our moderators for the group, and he also volunteered for Maybrook Railroad Museum for many, many years. He's known for local historian, and he writes, and he's an author for several books, and he's also, a real fan. Well, McHugh is still in Cornwall, New York, born and raised there. I want to thank Bob for, the contribution. I think this is nicely written. We submitted this to Poughkeepsie Journal, but I haven't heard from them yet.
And that's the approach work, which is made out of iron. And before this time, they were actively changing the iron out for steel. Right. You can see now a 5-gallon pail in sight. Finally got a hose that could squirt up 150 feet, and that made a big difference. It was a real mess there. When the bridge first got going, they banded groups of carriers together to offer fast service. The New York Central wasn't the only way to get somewhere, so they could actually do it in less time, and they would basically change where it made the most sense to, and it saves. They could beat the time pretty much every time, and they were very competitive. You had the Central States Dispatch. In the South, you had the Southern States, and you had the Blue Ridge, which the CNO was involved in. It was like 8 different railroads involved. Okay.
I want to show the clips.
Bill Sepe was everything Harvey Eastman was in the late 20th century. He put his heart and soul into the bridge, and it was incredible to watch him work.
Yes,
I'm the guy who wants to convert this railroad bridge into a hiking and biking pathway for people to cross the Hudson River to enjoy the Hudson River Valley. This is the Highland end of the bridge, and not many people know that it looks like this. It looks just like it did when the last train went over in 1974. That railing you see on both the right and the left sides of the bridge, it's been there 100 years. Pieces of it are missing. Right here on the right-hand side, you can see where it's flopped over. The pieces that are missing and the pieces that break off are what come down on people on the Highland side or on boats or barges in the river. People think the bridge is falling down, and really it's just pieces of this handrailing. Further on, the catwalk that you see here is silver and metal grating will be wooden as we go out on the bridge. And pieces of that wood also come down on the bridge, come down on the river. To have, when this is all finished, is a pathway across here that'll be the full width of the bridge. It won't look like this, but it'll be the same bridge. It'll be clear and it'll have solid railings on each side, so it'll be very secure. We'll have a clear view of the river and the city, the land on the Ulster County side. Power lines, those high tension lines that you see on the right-hand side, were put there by Central Hudson. They'll be taken down. Central Hudson's power now goes under the river. This railroad track and railroad rail and railroad railings are taken off. I hope to save them. There's nowhere else that we could ever get a post or a rail or a railroad spike that came from the top of the bridge, our own Poughkeepsie Railroad Bridge. They're mementos that we could use and display. And they're certainly unique. Just as unique as this view that you're seeing right now.
I'll share the screen.
Else to look down on the river from this vantage point. Else to appreciate this Hudson River Valley and all it means to us. To be up here where it's so quiet. To see storms coming in, like there's dark clouds in the horizon. To see the beautiful countryside on the Ulster County side there. To look down on our own Mid-Hudson Bridge. See the trucks and the buses and the cars going past, and yet not hear them. It isn't hard to imagine Henry Hudson coming up the river on the Half Moon. This is that wooden catwalk I was talking about. You can see the gaps in it. Pieces of the wood, the wind are blown out by the wind and either land up on the rails or they fall down into the river. It's dangerous. But it doesn't mean it's the bridge that's coming down. It just means it's these flimsy parts. There's another gap. Looking into Poughkeepsie, it isn't hard to imagine when Poughkeepsie was a great industrial town.
.42 at K104 with Mark Bolger in the morning. We've got 62 degrees, showers this morning, clouds this afternoon going up to 72. All right, Bill Seppi is on the line. This is the gentleman who wants to build the pedestrian walkway on the Poughkeepsie Railroad Bridge. And it's kind of a, it's been a heated political subject here in Poughkeepsie for quite some time. Bill, what is the name of your organization, first of all?
We're calling ourselves the Poughkeepsie Highland Railroad Bridge Company Incorporated, and we're incorporated and it's not for profit.
Okay, and you heard about the bridge song that we have.
Yeah, one of the volunteers called me and told me about it, so I wanted to find out more about it.
Well, it doesn't really jive with what you want to do. It actually wants to blow the bridge up. But why don't you tell us, where do things stand now as far as that whole thing goes?
Right now, they stand very good. The Dutchess County Legislature just voted to set aside the transfer of lien to the mysterious company called Skytrax that was going to purchase the lien for the middle section of the bridge.
For bungee jumping purposes?
Nobody really knows what they were up to. Nobody even knows who the people are that are Skytrax. They just know the name. So it could be anything from a restaurant to doing nothing. It could be land speculators.
Now, what about the bridge safety? What is the bridge like as far as structurally now?
It's actually in very good shape. In 1980, a study was done, and it would not have cost very much money to put it back into use for railroads. So right now we have a study underway, which will be ready in October, which will tell us how much it'll cost and what will need to be done to make it into a pedestrian bicycle pathway similar to the one that goes alongside the Beacon-Newburgh Bridge, except this one will use the whole bridge.
Now, when did this strike you as something that you wanted to do, and why?
It started last summer, 1991, when I was reading in the papers about the Greenway program.
Right.
And part of that program was the fact that anybody near the river that allowed the Greenway Trail to go over their property, the Greenway would take care of the liability insurance. And liability insurance has always been the big stumbling block with this bridge. So I said to myself, my gosh, let's just let the trail go over the bridge. They'll take care of the liability insurance. And that's the basic scenario I've worked out of.
Let me just ask you this. Where is the money going to come from if it does go your way? I mean, it's going to cost a few bucks, I would imagine, to make this into a walkway.
The other good thing that I didn't know when I started this, but there's a special federal fund that will pay 80% of the cost of this project. It's eligible for it. It doesn't mean it's, a shoe-in. There's a lot of work that has to be done, but this fund is generated by the highway bill. 10% of the federal highway funds are earmarked for what they call enhancement. These are things not actual roads, but like if somebody wants a bike path along a road,
all right.
If somebody wants to take down a billboard that is ugly, if somebody wants to buy a railroad bed to turn it into a pedestrian bicycle pathway, this is what this fund does. And so the money is competing with similar projects. It's not going to take anything away from the homeless people. It's not going to take anything away from Medicare. It's just
the separate fund that's been set aside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we still have to come up with the 20%, but that's a big chunk of it.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess.
Exactly.
Now, okay, so you want to build it into a walkway. If it does happen, how soon will it be done if things really move rapidly here? And what will people see once they get out on the old Poughkeepsie Railroad Bridge? What kind of barriers on the side will you have set up, all that?
As far as how soon it could be done, I guess the soonest would be next year.
If you started like today, right?
I'm not really sure how fast the construction part of it will grow, but that could be relative.
Share this with everyone.
Got questions?
Yes, I will get back to that. Okay, I'm going to stop the sharing. Well, actually, I have to go back at the okay. Now, the current slide. As you know, the current bridge is operating under walkway over the Hudson now. And again, this
Oh,
program is
man.
possible because of Maybrook Railroad Museum. Operating the museum is